spoken about it. The murmurs are there. It's the Chiefs. It is the Dire Wolves. And Dev, this is uncertain territory for us.
Well, if you look at previous history, like I said, Chiefs have dominated Dire Wolves in their prior matchups. But that said, Chiefs have changed two of their players, two of their fundamental core players, and brought on two relatively experienced rookies, two players who have never played at a Tier 1 level. Dire Wolves, on the other hand, they brought up one new player from their nationals, but that is just not as significant a roster change because Dire Wolves already a kind of turbulent roster, whereas Chiefs, all year, they play with that same roster. So definitely some doubt cast over the Chiefs now as we start to dig into them and start looking at this roster that became the OCN champions back to back in 2021.
That's it, and we will dig a little bit deeper here, Raven. You've already mentioned, at the very start of the show, things were looking a bit quirky in terms of roster shuffles, and that was APAC-wide. But we're now looking at a team that has dropped two of the better players that we've always talked about, both God Legion and Fisho. They've picked up Bouncin, who hasn't been present in Stage 3, and they've picked up Boydie. This is a huge change.
Yeah, look, it's a very exciting change for me. I know Chiefs were quite a strong roster within 2021. A lot of people probably wondering, man, they've changed two players, that they were doing so well. They made the Sweden Major. But you never quite know how these roster changes work out. The roles, I think, is the most interesting thing. We're not really going to have clarity in that until we start to see them play. But Fisher Guy in particular was known as a very strong support player within the region, if not one of the best support players within the Oceanic region. So to fill those shoes, I think that's going to require a role swap for these guys because Bouncin and Boydie, both when they played on Rufflecopter, probably more known as flex fragger kind of roles, if not hard fragger roles. Yeah. So I would be willing to bet that probably a player like Digital is going to be moving to more of support. And maybe even Ethan might fill some of the support duties given his experience in IGLing. So yeah, look, I think it's going to be so tough to predict how the Chiefs will deal with this roster change. Personally, my vote's usually on the camp of stable rosters, which is kind of how I've gone to predict for Dire Wolves in this match.
Well, I mean, one of the other changes is, of course, the coach.
Yes.
I might have blanked a little bit there, but of course, Todd is now in from Team Bliss. He is now coaching on this roster, and War Turtle has since departed. So that is another huge change. But we are starting to run out of time in this pre-show, so we can get a bit of a move on. Let's talk about the Dire Wolves here, Dev. You've already alluded to it. They've only had one roster change coming into today. And what a name, what a roster change. I mean, do you want to talk about it a little bit deeper here?
I just got to say, these guys have really nice camera setups. Like, they all look like streamers, like particularly ED, Harambe, and Pika. Like, they got some streamer setups. Nice to see that ED finally has a gaming chair instead of the bucket that he used to be sitting on. But yes, Harambe is, there we go. Full screen ED.
That is beautiful.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend. Hopefully we get to have a chat to him later today. But Harambe is the new player on the roster in the bottom right. He has come up from Velocity 9, a Nationals level team, and joined this roster. A lot of anticipation. Like, we personally don't know a lot about Harambe as a player. We'll say that's a nice little headset. Got the Rainbow Six branding. But Dire Wolves already had a kind of turbulent 5th place on that roster. So I don't think that this is going to negatively impact them too much. If anything, I think this is going to be a really good change.
Would you agree with that, Raven? That's actually, I mean, listening to how Dev's prefaced that, it is a very good point. They've kind of been a little bit turbulent with that 5th player.
Yeah, they have, but it really felt like towards the end of the year, they were finding their feet in a way. They seemed like they were starting to perform fairly strong. They performed fairly well in SI qualifiers, for example. They did finish in 4th at Stage 3 in terms of that regular season standings. So I definitely have hope for them this stage. Again, always hard to predict exactly how these roster changes will change things. And the other important thing to remember is the roster changes are one thing. There's also the patch changes. Obviously, Attacker Repick will have a play. So it is hard to guess, but I'm feeling of the two teams that we have in front of us right now, Dire Wolves are the most likely to come out ahead at this early part of the year.
Well, you know what has been another huge change, Raven? It is, in fact, the map pool. It has completely changed up, something that we have not seen. So let's have a look at the vetoes and start to discuss where we are going. I am still so gobsmacked at the fact that we have 9 maps in the pool now. I mean, that would be absolutely insane. Dev, we go to Bank. I'll let you talk about Bank a little bit, but I'm also happy for you to just talk about this huge change.
Can I just say, I'm so overwhelmed. Like, I had to update my match tracker today, my massive spreadsheet, to try and accommodate for 2 new maps. It was actually not that bad because I I know what I'm doing in the spreadsheets, but it's just so hard to read. Like, look at that, 9 maps. You think about us just trying to read and remember all the callouts on all those maps. These teams have to prepare strategies for every single map. So we're going to see a lot of insta bans going to bank. Look, we cannot talk through 8 different bans. So I'm just going to go and talk about bank. This is statistically Chiefs' best map. 9 wins and 2 losses in the last couple of months, including some pretty significant ones in the OCN finals, for example. They took down Team Bliss 7-4. They took down Oxygen at the Sweden Major 7-4 as well on this very map. So I would say this is a really good map for Chiefs, and I think they're going to go into this with a lot of confidence.
Raven?
Yeah, look, definitely agree. The stats don't lie. They have a really strong win-loss record on bank, and as Dev has pointed out, against some strong teams. That being said, Direwolves also have a pretty decent record on this. It's at 50%. They're 8-4 based on the stats that we have. Just looking at recent history, actually beat IG on bank. It was 8-7, so very close, but that was in the SI qualifiers. They also took down Cyclops on bank in the SI qualifiers. So their 2 most recent results actually defeating fairly strong teams. I feel like Direwolves probably pretty well situated in this game as well, and given that there's a lot of VODs on Chiefs on bank, they'll have the prep available to them. I think it's really hard to call which way this is going to go, but again, I'm feeling like I'm just going to default back to, I feel like with Direwolves roster stability compared to Chiefs, I feel like they're situated to come out the best here.
All right, very quickly, let's get your final predictions before we get underway. The game's ready, so Dev, very quick, what are we after?
I said Direwolves for the same reasons you said Raven, but I feel like I'm going to be wrong because the last time these 2 teams played, Chiefs won 7-2, 7-1. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to go Direwolves. I'm going to back myself in, but I'm going to say I'm ready to look silly.
Raven, a little bit quicker.
I'm still sticking with Direwolves, also ready to look silly, and also let's go Ose.
Yeah, let's go. Well, let's hope so. I think it's going to be an interesting one. It's our first match of the 2022 season, and to take you underway with all of the action, it's Guz and Xenox. Enjoy.
New maps, we got new players, we've got new teams. Unfortunately, still the same 3 clowns on the desk though. Heading into 2022 though, Guz, you're looking sharp, you're looking great, you're looking like a teacher.
Thanks. Here to teach you a thing or two. Unfortunately, we didn't get Skyscraper because we know I would have been walking you through that map. Super keen to jump in. I always love the first game of any stage, any season, right? We get a really good feel as to where these teams are at on day 1, and this is a pretty big matchup to kick things off.
Bank is a very, very good map for Chiefs. Of course, that's old Chiefs though, right? Like, they've got new players now. It's not the same. It's hard to kind of look back to last year's statistics. The same can also obviously be said for Direwolves. Ray is gone. So realistically, coming into this bank, it is a tricky one. I do agree with the boys on the desk. I think that the Direwolves having that extra little bit of lineup stability will help them out. And the socials agree, 62% in favor of the Direwolves, but do not discount the Chiefs here on bank. And also don't discount their new pickups. Boydie and Bouncin, both super capable, both played together as well back in Roffelcopter in stage 2. So they know each other. And then obviously you got the 3 stalwarts for the Chiefs still there.
Well, we're jumping to the ban phase and everything's looking brand spanking new. I like these little animations, quite nice. And Habana will be taken off the board first from the Chiefs. Obviously an incredibly potent hard breacher on this particular map, as it's very hatch heavy. And Habana is the perfect operator for opening those up. I'm expecting the secondary attacking ban here from Direwolves to maybe be something to aid in the roam clear. So we'll have to see exactly what they want to dabble in. And there we go, Montang. I guess that is probably one operator that can aid in said roam clear.
Do we really see the Chiefs playing Montang though?
We used to. F's in the chat for fish, okay?
Well, we used to, not anymore probably. I mean, but hey, obviously this is where it's a bit tricky, right? It's day 1, it's game 1. The intel that you really have to go off is outdated, if there is any. Fortunately, you know, playing on bank, at least you can kind of look at that back to last year. Had we got any of the 3 new maps, then it becomes even more tricky as Kaid gets taken out by the Direwolves. Chiefs will get final ban. They've locked that in straight away. They know what they want, and it's going to be the mirror. Direwolves will be on the attack, Chiefs on the defense here on bank, which, if we look back to last year, yeah, attacker sided to a degree, but, you know, who knows where we're at right now.
And that leads into the overarching huge discussion point heading into the first stage of 2022. It's attacker repick. How much is that going to shift? How often is it going to be used? And how is it going to affect attacking win rates on particularly maps I feel that historically have been defender-sided? Again, maybe if you've just tuned in, you're wondering, what the hell is attacker repick? That sounds absolutely wild. Well, it kind of is. The attackers now, during the preparation phase, they can drone ahead, scout out sight, and they can change their lineup freely. All 5 players can change out to whoever they want, whenever they want, before that prep phase ends. That means that 6-pick is no longer a thing, so thankfully for everyone, that's going to speed things up a little bit. But it means for the defense, they're going to have to be even more proactive than they were previously.
I'm going to be the bad one here, guys, and say I was not actually looking, but did they do any repick? I didn't actually see if they...
Well, it will occur during the preparation phase, Jake.
Oh, that's right.
You will see over the next 20
Beautiful.
seconds if anyone switches in or out. I don't believe so thus far,
Perfect
though.
explanation. I am very special.
That's all right. It's the first. It's the first round.
Look,
the first
preseason's
Playday.
over, and this is where we start to see everything come to fruition. Obviously, for the Chiefs, do you play into that a little bit? Do you even care about it? Do you even think about it? Those are the things that you're probably not sure of in round 1 of game 1 of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, it's going to be factored into preparation and during matches, but it's really just an extension of the adaptive playstyle I feel that teams have been playing so far, and it looks like Divers might be prepping for a square rush.
I don't think they're prepping for it. I think they're already going to go straight in. Jackie Weaven taking one to the back of the head. Does go down initially. Digital up close with the shotgun. Gets the first kill. Ethan watching too. And this rush completely unsuccessful by the Direwolves. They get shut down immediately. Fortunately for the Chiefs, they just really had all of the angles on that push covered immediately. Digital getting that first kill really shut that entire push down as well.
A bit of a brave attempt there from Dire Wolves, but the Chiefs ready and waiting, able to deal with that quite swiftly. Now ED in the 1 versus 3 over towards top square. Does have the advantage of time on his side and spots one over towards E. Can't land the shots though, but eventually will drop Boydie. Now it becomes winnable.
2 minutes as well. I mean, plenty of time to work with. ED doesn't have to rush this. It's the drone out. Even low on health as well. Taking that into account, it's a lot of pressure on Worthy. Already up 2 kills to the good. Drops down. They do have info at this square's position though. Throws out a bit of the false flash and now goes with a diffuser. Again, a lot of time. This is not a sprint here for Edie. Gets in. I mean, this is kind of step 1 done.
Takes the plant once, trying to bait out a pick, but no one's really showing face here from the Chiefs, and rightly so, playing quite defensively, waiting for the post plant, and that's probably the play in the 2 versus 1. You don't want to throw away a pick and compromise your position. Ethan's rotated elsewhere over towards top blue, but his aid won't be needed. Worthy to find that kill, and Chiefs to take the round.
Interesting start. Obviously, the blitz attack from Direwolves halted immediately, and then that sort of drawn out 1v2 attempt. Chiefs, though, that's the way you want to start the season, really, and even just this particular game being obviously a best of 1 each round. So important. It's not a best of 3 where you got to take the other team's map pick or anything. Each round has its importance. And Direwolves, if they go for that sneaky attack in round 1 and they lose that, it's a big round win for the Chiefs on the defense on bank. So probably not expecting Direwolves to go for something like that again. I mean, they may play into it. This is APAC. They do like to do those kind of strategies every now and then, but I would probably look to see them slow it down a lot.
And much like the rest of the group, before knowing the map, Vito did pick Direwolves to win this matchup, but after seeing the map that snuck through, I'm somewhat leaning now towards the Chiefs. And for Direwolves, I don't think this is, especially this map, one you can get away with that sort of cheese approach to trying to sneak rounds. Yeah, sure, it's the first round, fair enough, go for it. But the Chiefs, historically, they're very switched on to that sort of stuff. They have a lot of experience at this level in this region against that aggression. So if there's anyone you want to do it against and any map you want to do it on, this combination probably not right for Direwolves, but at the same time, you have to respect the effort and hope that maybe from this point on, they'll get a little bit more structure and we'll see what Direwolves are really made of.
Chiefs go down below. Just having a look at that lineup as well. Capcan Castle looking to make it difficult, but they're obviously not employing the Tachanka. We saw a lot of that last year, at the back end of last year, especially on Bank. Unfortunately, with that kind of strategy, though, if it doesn't work out well, you don't have much else to go for it. Boydie gets the opening kill. He can frag, but it's not going to be his job here on the Chiefs.
Not even entirely sure where that pick was found. It looks like Boydie might be all the way over towards Garage, so potentially a sneak from the Nook. I mean, that would kind of link up, right, Nook, if you're going to pick that particular operator on Bank historically. And what we've seen in the past is should try and sneak through that garage position and make her way past any bulletproof cameras that may be looking down that entry point. But alas, it has been shut down, and now Direwolves need to reconsolidate their position here. Still have soft breach. They still have the ace available for a bit of hard breach. But again, with that Hibana banned, these sorts of clears are going to be really tough.
Biggest thing to take into account as well, basement on bank, do not want to let time get against you either, and then you just start funneling in through server, and then it just ends up being a bit of a bloodbath. Minute 30 on the clock. Still time to work with for the Direwolves, but down a player, having to still really get a lot of work done down below, and Ethan hasn't been cleared out from open. Could pop off. Pop up, I should say, and find an elimination. Ends up actually just walking back a little bit, and Ethan falls to Jackie Wu. The headshot will take him out. It's 4v4. Suddenly things look a little bit more doable now for the Direwolves.
Magnetic bullets there from Jackie, attracted to the head of Ethan. At least Direwolves now have evened out the man count, and they have 60 seconds to work with, so they're not in the worst of positions. It looks like Elevator is a point of interest, and Jackie drops, but shut down Edie with the trade, so it remains even. Not a bad result there again for Direwolves, who started off on the back foot, but the Chiefs, they're clued in to where this attack is coming from. I think Bouncing's probably in one of the more impactful positions at the moment, looking at him to step up here.
You lose the Finker, though. You lose those adrenal surges for the final 30 seconds. That's a big loss. You did get rid of Worthy, though. Such a star caliber player for the Chiefs. Bit of damage on Harambe, but it's Digital who wins out against Pika. 2 versus 2 suddenly. It's been trade for trade, blow for blow, but Digital holds himself well. He gets 2 from that position, and that's now all up to ED once again, just like round 1. But this time he has no time and probably no chance as well. And he's not finding anyone. Chiefs playing this smart. They're playing this safe, calculated, and measured. It's a 2-0 start on defense, on bank. It's like the Chiefs of old have not changed all that much.
Digital to find the final pick. A really good hold from him in particular over towards Vault. A lot of pressure on his position, but he holds strong with the SMG and cleans things up. It has been a very solid start so far from the Chiefs. I think they're quite comfortable on this particular map, and that's aiding them quite a bit. We head over towards the second floor now as Chiefs will look to complete the rotation, get 3 objectives straight, and really put the foot down in this first match.
And for CEO Executive as well, I think this is probably the site Direwolves desperately need to win. It's a little bit more open. Well, the castle's going to help a lot, though. Obviously, from Digital being on that. We saw Boydie playing it before, so a bit of a swap, but barricade up those windows. Do try and make that site a little bit more inaccessible, and then hold that hallway position on the other side, depending on if Direwolves want to go for some sort of a repel game. I think in times, though, we've seen teams attacking CEO Executive, though, move away from the repel, especially when playing into the castle barricades.
And you can see on the side of the attack, left-hand side, the Direwolves plays 3 attacker repicks. So the Lion coming in for the Dockerby, the Yana for the Buck, the IQ for the Zephyr. I don't know if that's indicative of maybe another rush play. I'd be a little bit surprised if it was. But nonetheless, if you're trying to deal with a castle, those kind of switches are a little bit peculiar. I guess Gone 6, you have nades. Not the worst of trades. I'd be very interested to be in the voice comms for Direwolves and be understanding why that decision was made.
Yeah, and obviously with that just making its way in now, it is something you're going to have to, I guess, train ourselves to keep an eye on, because I'm looking at the middle of the screen.
I'm just staring at it the entire face.
And I glance over and I'm like, hang on a second, what's this? This looks awesome. Yeah, so obviously for those watching, the attacker repick during preparation phase, just keep an eye on the attackers and see if they do make some of those changes. E1D does make its way out early from ED. That's a lot of EDs in that one. 4 and 2, having a good start, but unfortunately the rest of his team haven't quite been able to get going. 0-2, 1-2, 0-2, 1-2. It's been a bit of a disaster as a team right now for the Direwolves rather than individual mistakes.
Not a bad start for them though here in round number 3. Castle barricades dealt with quite nicely there by Jackie Wu. They've gone 6 charge. Top square wall was also opened swiftly by Harambe on the ace, and Souffle's down below dealing with electronics. So far, the setup and the poise here from Direwolves is probably the best we've seen, but it's still a long way to go.
I love the Lion repick as well, because Chiefs aren't going to be playing on site. Therefore, if they're running around hallway, elevator, all these different positions, you're going to want to see if you can either keep them still or try and figure out where they really are. So the Lion does make it a little bit more tricky. I mean, to be fair, Chiefs aren't going to be moving all that much. It shouldn't be that much of an issue. But I think it's going to provide a little bit more than, say, like the Dockerby that we saw ED playing before.
IQ as well, very powerful at the moment. You can ping particular items with Zed.
Oh.
I was really wanting control of stock. Digital has the cross on the vault, but that's a tough shot to hit. We'll have to see whether or not he can hold down the line.
4-1 Digital, the frag.
Oh,
Everyone's talking about hard support. Man's leading from the front. So is Bouncing with the elimination onto Jackie Wu. That's his first elimination for the Chiefs in APAC South. A player with such great potential from the Oceanic region. Skipped out on stage 3 to find a top team, but he finds the bullet of Harambe to the head there. Loses out, and Worthy falls to ED. Suddenly, Direwolves with a slight advantage. It's all down to Digital in Janitor.
Under more pressure than ever as ED finds yet another Ethan low on health, stranded on site, looking to maybe find a pick top square, but unlikely to get away with that. Shut down immediately.
Ooh.
Digital falls as well, and Direwolves finally find a response.
And I think that's more of the Direwolves, the guys on the desk were expecting here on Bank, that sort of ferocity in just being able to pick apart their opponents there. And I think also for the Direwolves, just slowed it down a little bit more and took those 1v1s and really put the pressure on the Chiefs more so than just rushing in blind ahead of steam. That was much better, and for their credit as well, making use of that attacker repick.
Just quickly to note on attacker repick, I know it's only been 3 and a bit rounds so far, and I know it's probably not everyone's cup of tea at the moment, but attacker repick is just, it's speeding things up so much faster. We're not sitting here waiting for the 6th pick. It just feels like we're on a nice little flow at the moment, and it felt like the Chiefs as well were on a bit of a roll of momentum, but Divers have halted that. Understandably so, though. It was on the upstairs bomb site, particularly during 6th Invitational. It felt like that site, I don't have the numbers on me right now, was very challenging to defend, and rightly so. I think it's been nutted out quite nicely by the attack. The rappel is still incredibly strong, and trying to counter that on the side of the defense is really, really tough. Again, considering attacker repicks in as well, probably going to be even harder. Yeah,
I don't have the statistics in front of me either, but I agree with that sentiment. I think for CEO Executive, a little bit more attacker-sided on Bank. I mean, for a map that obviously inherently is attacker-sided to a degree, I think, you know, generally locker CCTV, I feel like defenders can generally hold that one pretty well. And then open area stuff is probably that kind of 50-50 site. So it's pretty important here for the Chiefs as they do go back to open area stuff now for the 4th round. If they win this, they go 3-1. I think for defense Bank, you would take that here for this first game of the season.
ED is the top fragger in the lobby currently with 7 picks. Last round, especially strong for him. And once again, he's on the Nook, so I'll have to see whether or not he can sneak around the map. It looks like front door. That's where he wants to try and sneak around and maybe try and find an opening pick. This could be a very big play.
Player over towards elevators. 7-2 right now, ED, having a really, really good start. Has to be careful of Bouncin, who's not watching the right angle. Never mind, he just switches over anyway. Oh, that's clean. Bouncin with a double. Welcome to the Chiefs. Big moment, and a big moment in the round gives them a 2-player advantage in the 4th. And now the Chiefs could be on the brink of a 3-1 start here on defense Bank.
A little bit sloppy there from Direwolves, but the credit, of course, needs to go to Bounce, and a strong start for him so far. And maybe showing us why the Chiefs elected to bring him onto this roster. Direwolves will not go down without a fight. They still have, I was going to say, a bit of control up above, but Souffle dismantled. Peak with the trade. Those holes established with the skeleton key. Not bad, but unfortunately for Direwolves, it once again is kind of unraveled before they've been able to establish a foothold.
Yeah, and intel as well here for the Chiefs, of course, knowing Janitor is where Pika is going to be at the moment. So that's at least one player of the Direwolves accounted for, at least for the moment. And then Harambe up in hallway as well. So a lot of work to do for a duo with 1:20 seconds remaining. At the very least, they've got soft bridge and hard bridge, but I don't think that's going to be too much of a worry right now in a 2v4. Pika does get on though, catches Boydie from above, and still a minute left. If Harambe can get going, make something happen, and make it, say, a 2v2, this is winnable for the Direwolves.
Still has a Salma charge available as well, and that could have a limited impact, but Pika's been fed in this round, and Chiefs will be straying away from peeking those vert holes any longer, not wanting to throw this opportunity away to extend their lead. Harambe uses the final of those Salma charges to open up bot square, or at least attempt to. I think it might be jammed by one of Digital's devices. Nonetheless, though, 30 seconds left, and they need to make a move.
30 seconds, yeah, it's not a lot of time. Right, Selma gets moved over to the castle barricade. Worthy in elevators has not been cleared out. Nice movement though from Pika. Goes low, gets the crouch shot and headshot. Now it's a 2 versus 2 for the final execute. Bounce and hold. It needs to swing, get the trade, and does just that. But now in a 1 versus 1, takes a lot of damage. Pika clutches big for the Direwolves in the 4th round. Despite the start from Bouncin, Pika bounces back for the Direwolves.
One by one, they fall. Pika steps up. Big round there for Direwolves, and a round that really should not have been theirs. It was a strong start from the Chiefs. Bouncing in particular popped off, but unfortunately couldn't cap it off. Really well played by Direwolves. And just like that, again, this game feels like it's going at warp speed, but 2-2 now the scoreline.
Yeah, and it feels like, without being too harsh to the Chiefs, but that's a momentum killer in some ways, and maybe even a momentum swing to the Direwolves. At one moment, it's suddenly looking like a 3-1 start on the defense. Next minute, big clutch from Pika. And now it's just 2-2. And now the attack of the Direwolves is just starting to roll a little bit, right? It's like the wheels have just started turning and they're finding that form, finding that momentum as we head ourselves back down to basement for Locker CCTV in the 5th round. And it's a big one now for the Chiefs because suddenly you go from either breaking even in the first half to what could eventually be a, say, standard 4-2 attacking half for Direwolves. That would be so unfortunate for the Chiefs, just considering the start that they've had here on Bank.
10 seconds left before insertion.
We head back down to basement. Last time this was attempted by the Chiefs. A bit of a roam was executed and Direwolves found it quite tricky to navigate from the top floor downwards. Again, hindered by the Hibana, made things tough. They were sort of funneled over towards elevator once the garage push didn't work out for the Nook. But this time they've changed things up a little bit here. No Nook in play, instead ED on the Dockerby. Try and crowd control some of these defenders which may be lurking around the site itself. As you can see on the outline, Souffle over towards open. You can see Worthy and open and at least 1 or 2 players up above here for the Chiefs.
Oh, nice shot from Souffle. And they're just starting to really hit their shots here. Worthy loses out there. That was an opportunity as well. Souffle, though, coming off second best in that exchange. Bouncing will head back downstairs to the basement, where basically the Chiefs now need to hold as 4. This is going to give free rein for the Direwolves up above to get through their checklists and really open things up and put the pressure right onto the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how a single sharp shot can really open the round up for an attacker on Bank. With open control, they'll be able to work the hatches, and Pika pretty safely on the top floor as well can create lines of sight and cut off any potential rotations if the Chiefs feel the need to make their way up above. But this is now the sort of consolidation period of the round. We'll see over the next 40 seconds or so, Divers will drone ahead, try and make sure that they don't get caught off guard by anything, and have a quick talk as to how they want to approach the site, which attacking pattern they want to go for. Is it a server blue push, or do they want to go more so for elevator and the back push that they attempted last time? They have the freedom to make that decision, but Harambe falls to a Capcan trap.
Well, you take that if you're bouncing. Why not? It's a freebie. That's the A's taken off the board, so no Salmas, no hard breach now. Does that change the thought process here for the Direwolves, especially for, say, a server room push?
Could well slow them down, but Pika with secondary hard breach able to make up for the fact that their only dedicated hard breach has fallen. Hatch open, Jackie Wu with diffuser in pocket. A site looking pretty clear. Digital has smoke grenades though to deny. Nitros as well in play from Ethan Bouncing respectively. So trying to get this down immediately will be tough. Divers likely will need to try and send it and find picks.
Time becoming a factor though for the Direwolves. To be fair, so far here on Bank, they've been able to do quite a lot of work with very little time. Gas Babes will go out from Digital now. Still has 2 more in the back pocket. And you've still got the Yokai as well for Boydie. Chiefs, though, they are on the back foot. It's up to the Direwolves to make a move.
20 seconds now. As the time ticks down, the chance of winning this round only decrease for the attack. Sophia charges go out, but don't really find much. And here's the drop from DW.
Still 1 more. Gas Bay from Digital throws it out. Jackie Wu getting that diffuser down. Souffle's taking a little bit of damage. What angles have been found here for the Direwolves? It looks like Digital doesn't quite know. Nice Nitro Cell from Bouncing. Diffuser's down, and so it looks like the Chiefs as well. It is only a 2 versus 1. Souffle Pika versus Boydie on his new team with a big task ahead of him. 1 above, 1 just went up blue stairs. That's probably the round. He has not got enough time to not only chase down this player, but then get back for the counter defuse. It's going to be a 3-2 lead for the Direwolves.
And it's all but confirmed in the post. Well done by Direwolves. A good, strong clear early. They established themselves up well for the execution, maybe leaving it a little bit too late, but they made good use of the time that was left and really overwhelmed the defense on that particular round.
Just like that, in what is the blink of an eye kind of terminology, 3 rounds to the good for the Direwolves off the back of what was a very fantastic start from the Chiefs. to start off Bank defensively, winning the first 2 rounds. And now suddenly they find themselves in a position where Direwolves may just walk away with what you would expect them to on attacker-sided Bank. 4-2 half kind of territory, that's what you would expect to play out. And it's seeming like that is how it may very well play out, because now as we head to CEO Executive, as we said before, this is the site that the gut feel says very much plays into the attacker side.
And Souffle re-picking onto Twitch for this particular round, and Pika and ED on similar re-picks to what we saw previously when they attempted this site and were able to get a win. So I think the ball at the moment is in the court of Direwolves. It didn't feel like that at all in the first couple of rounds. It was almost like Chiefs looked like the old Chiefs, really. Very difficult to beat and incredibly potent. But Direwolves have bounced back. Now they're on a site that should favor them, which begs the question why Chiefs did not re-attempt it down below. But nonetheless, we'll have to see how this one plays out.
I mean, not even just down below, but open area staff was also available. So this is a kind of strange decision here from the Chiefs, unless they do feel like they've got a bit of an idea as to how they want to play this to maybe catch the Direwolves off guard, who are going for a bit more of a repel game this time around. Although that can obviously change pretty quickly. Quick little access over the roof. Definitely feels like the pressure, though, right on the Chiefs now. If they had a bit of a breezy start to this game, 2-0 start, maybe some questionable decision-making by the Direwolves, well, the Direwolves have now picked up their game in particular, and it's the Chiefs where you start to wonder what's going on, what's going wrong, basically. And I feel like it just comes down to the fact they're just not quite hitting their shots. They're just not being able to get these opening frags and put the Direwolves on the back foot nice and early into these rounds. Second EE1D deployed by ED. So a minute 45 left in the round, only has 1 left. And it's Worthy who finds that opening pick. So important, but now it's all about actually capitalizing down the stretch.
Yeah, Neil advised push there over towards open area, and Direwolves not having a drone over towards main to call out that swing. Well played, though, by Worthy. An opportunistic push, and talk about opportunism. Souffle pushes 4, but Boydie shuts that down. Direwolves, in a couple of rounds so far on this map, early on in their attacks, have thrown away picks. However, they have been able to sometimes string together a comeback. So let's see what they can do on this round. Maybe it won't be one of those occasions as Bouncing over towards long desk finds a pick behind the shield, and now ED and Harambe basically left stranded with their hands tied behind their backs.
Direwolves have done some decent work from 2v4 situations, but this is a 2 versus 5. Surely Chiefs can't balls this one up. Bouncing's been incredible so far in this first half. 8 and 5 on his new team. Star player with a lot of potential. There's another one. Why not? Can he get double digits to open up the account here in the first half? No, Digital takes that. It's a flawless round, though, to end the half for the Chiefs. They started strong. They finished strong. It's 3-3 here on Bank.
And then we start to theorize, hypothesize who has a bit of a lead here, maybe, who has a little bit of momentum going their way. And it's almost like splitting hairs at this point. I don't think there's really too much to comment on a 3-3 scoreline on Bank. The way it's played out as well, bit of a seesaw in the sense that Chiefs started off strong, and then Direwolves was able to salvage quite a few rounds, actually, and salvage the scoreline in doing so. And then, of course, Chiefs heading back upstairs, able to, I guess, put the foot down and say, you know what, we can defend this particular objective. We will do it successfully. They did. And now it's kind of a reset, as we said, into that second half.
When you really do look at that lineup of the Chiefs, Ethan, Worthy, Bouncing can all frag. Even Digital and Boydie obviously can hit their shots as well. It's just a very solid roster that I think maybe the guys on the desk thought would maybe take some time, guys, to sort of gel together. Maybe the stability of the Direwolves is sort of easier to look at that and say, okay, well, maybe that they're going to be a bit favored. But you've got to remember the accomplishments of the core of that Chiefs roster still, and what they were able to do last year. And they're not bringing in scrubs, they're bringing in great players. I don't see why they can't continue to reach those highs that they had in 2021 here in 2022 as well. And obviously for the Direwolves, there's a lot of hope for these guys to continue to rise up the standings, maybe not just in APAC South, but in APAC in general.
Yeah, Direwolves came into APAC South last year with a lot of question marks as to how they were going to perform and not much expectation. But as the year grew, I think them as a team also grew as well. They sort of developed their own unique style, which was always fun to watch and good to look at. Didn't always produce results, particularly consistent results, but I'm sure that's something they would have been building upon during the off-season. And they've shown, at least in this first half of the first match, that they can continue to fight deep. They didn't let the first couple of rounds, which were very disappointing, get to them too much. They stuck to their game plan. They stuck to allowing their star players to shine. And eventually, as the map developed, they were able to show that.
And just having a quick look at the lineups, we spoke about the attacker repick, but for the most part, Direwolves actually brought a very standardized lineup across the board, only really alternating for the CEO executive site. So when you look at that, especially just thinking about that 6th round where I think it was a bit of a surprise for the Chiefs to actually go there. Yes, it worked out well, but that particular decision by the Chiefs is where the attacker repick is actually going to be so valuable this year in 2022, whereby the Chiefs could have gone, say, locker CCTV, open area staff, and maybe the more predicted sites. And then when yet they go CEO executive, Direwolves can just go, okay, let's go back to the line, let's go back to the Yana, and they can do that this time rather than being stuck with, say, like the Buck.
Yeah, for sure. And that is the new dynamic, right? You can really craft your particular attacking lineup to not only the objective, but also the way in which it's being set up. Now, the caveat to that, and this is the big one that I often see overlooked by people, is for attacker repick to be truly effective, you need to be able to drone effectively, right? You can't magically know who's on the other team and what the setup's looking like exactly. You need to sort of drone out, make sure you have a bit of a feel as to where the setup's being established, and if you need maybe a different operator to be able to break through that. And again, you need to drone. And if you sacrifice a drone in order to gain that information, then there's sort of that trade, right? You're giving away a drone, which could be critical for the entry or the late round and gaining critical information. You've now sacrificed that in order to better prepare yourself in the prep phase. But again, that sort of trade, that dynamic is something that I'm interested to see develop across the year. Are teams on the attack in the preparation phase going to be more willing to give away drones? Is that information really all that important, or would they rather hold that back for later in the round?
Just bringing it back to the Chiefs, we've got Mr. Digital on our screens here, guys. What do you make of the lineup going into 2022? Obviously, they're going to have the same aspirations as last year. Their aim is to win APAC South. Do you think it's possible? How do you rate their lineup changes?
My first initial reaction to the roster changes was a why. Why are you making these changes? They were clearly the best team in OCN. They were one of, if not the best team in Stage 3 in APAC. They did a decent job at the Sweden Major. And that was my first initial reaction, just straight off the bat, was why. But again, we don't have the insight as to why these roster changes were made, anything like that. That's purely speculative. All we can look at is the results. For me, in my opinion, anything less than a top 2 or top 3 finish here in Stage 1 of APAC South would be a disappointment. It would be a failure in making those roster changes and going down that far. Yes, there's going to be a rebuilding phase, a bit of maybe even a honeymoon period as well at that, but that excuse is not going to hold up. Every team has roster changes. So if you make roster changes and they suck, well, you're going to be red-faced, right? That's just the straight way of putting it. So in terms of my expectations for the Chiefs, what I think they're capable of, they can finish first again. Absolutely no doubt. Boydie and Bounson, they're great players. Will that be the case though? Good luck predicting that. APAC South at the best of times is volatile, so it's almost impossible to have a really good read as to where they might finish up.
And just to quickly give context for those maybe unaware, of course, Fisher Guy, God Legion, both were on the Chiefs and effectively both departed. Again, you can speculate the reasons as to why, but they are both still playing. They have both gone over to Team Bliss, of course, Oceanic team. So it's not as if there's a retirement. It's not like you're filling the void. It's clearly there's some decision making that's going on, maybe from both sides, maybe from one side. It's hard to say. And obviously we've got the outcome, which is Bounson and Boydie. And the reason why I'm so excited for Bounson though is he literally skipped all of Stage 3, guys. If you remember back at the end of Stage 2, he left that Rafflecopter roster. And I said at the time, I think the best thing that he could actually do is wait till the start of this year. It's a long wait. And also it's a risk, because what if teams forget about you? What if maybe you regress? What if there's still not a spot? But ultimately in Stage 3, there just wasn't a top team that he could get onto. Now he's found his way onto that top team.
Yeah, for sure. And he's, I guess, linking back up with Boydie, right? They had that established relationship earlier on that Rafflecopter roster.
Yep.
So super keen to see if they can continue to perform. And from what we've seen so far, only 6 rounds of however many are going to be played across the year. But it's been a good start. I think it's always good if you're on a new team, in a new environment, to just get off the bat really strong and get a couple of kills under your belt and get a feel for it is always really nice. Yes, you've had time to scrim, and the team obviously has faith in you to pick you up for this particular roster with these stakes on the line, but in an official, completely different ball game. And so far, I think we can probably say with confidence that Bounson and even Boydie at times have been performing quite well.
Bit of an extended halftime break to fix some of the sound issues. So thank you everyone for sort of bearing with us there. And I think also for the players, they probably wouldn't mind an extended halftime break here at a 3-3 scoreline. Chiefs now over to the attacking side. Direwolves on the defense. We go straight down to Locker CCTV to start with here for the Direwolves. So back into the swing of things we go. I will say, you mentioned sort of maybe just at the very end of that first half about momentum. I feel like all momentum's now been wiped because of that break.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Looking at operator picks, say Boydie with the attacker repick on to Nook. And it's a couple of times now we've seen this. First on the side of Dire Wolves, but now from the Chiefs. The anticipated route here for Boydie would straight through garage, but instead he opts front door, and he might have a player down main stairs or even a back hatch later on. Nades in hand as well, so he could do quite a bit of damage. Elsewhere, it looks like the Chiefs are going to opt for a top-down take, and they are bringing the Jackal. And I remember fondly a couple of times last year, this was one of their strategies to bring the Jackal and to expedite that process of roaming top-down or clearing top-down roamers, and it worked really well for them. So I'm excited to see if they can replicate that here.
And just quickly, of course, Lockers CCTV, it's Tachanka, and we've got the smoke. So Direwolves will be playing into the denial of the server room push, which we've seen a lot of. I mean, I can't remember the actual number, the time, Guz. You're generally better at that than me, but what is it, 45 seconds that can be denied, or 50 seconds roughly?
Approximately, yeah.
Yeah, around that.
Plus, you have the smoking combination, so I reckon if you played it super well, you could extend that at least to a minute 20 plus, at least.
What that means, though, obviously for the attackers, in this case the Chiefs, they need to be getting into server room pretty early on, just so they can start trying to get the Direwolves to burn through that utility. Now, they may go for a different approach here. They may go for a different strategy and not try and play into that. It's not like it's impossible to beat. We've seen a lot of teams actually still get the plant down and push past the smoke and the Tachanka. But you can also go for other avenues. In saying that, Chiefs definitely look like they're going for this one.
Peeker inside of goal. This is a classic spot to hold on Bank Basement. If you watch any Bank game from the last couple of years, you will know that Pulse is almost a staple in this position to get an eye on the default plant. And he'll be calling out that there's multiple players bot blue, and Digital, one of those, looking to quickly open up in towards the A bomb site for that default position. But again, look at the time, 50 seconds left. There's no excuse for Direwolves, Jackie Wu, and ED specifically in not being able to deny this plant for the remainder of the round.
The first smoke out from ED is perfect. Well, how about that? Maybe just get rid of the smoke. There's no more gas babes available. Suddenly only 5 ammunition remaining for the Chichanka, for Jackie Wu. 35 seconds. The Chiefs will be able to get this plant down unless Direwolves can throw out that C4 from Pika or just honestly take them out individually. Pika's got a big job to do here to try and fill the void of ED.
Plant being executed by Ethan. Souffle trying to find the angle but doesn't. Harambe able to find Worthy, but that's still the plant in the air. But Ethan unfortunately taken down for the Chiefs. Oh, bouncing as well from down below. And now Digital stranded in the 1 versus 3.
Yeah, and Pika did get that elimination with the Nitrocell, by the way. That stopped the plant from going down. Digital just up in flames. And so was the attack from the Chiefs in the end. They had a momentary window to get that to go their way. When Boydie found the nade onto the smoke, suddenly that smoke to Chanka combination falls flat on its face and shouldn't quite be as effective. But then Pika, still with that Nitrocell, can essentially step into the role of the smoke to deny that plant, as a tactical timeout has been called by the Chiefs.
I reckon that was a digital timeout. He was on a treadmill in that round, and it looks like he might have been on a treadmill IRL. He's gone. He is out of here. Someone's pulled the plug. So a bit of sabotage there, but yeah, that was a bit of a weird round. A lot to digest, and my play-by-play reflecting that. It was quite bad, unfortunately. I was not expecting Ethan to die as late as he did in that post. If he had been able to secure that, maybe it was winnable. And Boydie, I think it was on the hatch. He was able to hold that position. Again, probably swinging towards the Chiefs, but that Siege, it's a game of millimeters. And unfortunately for the Chiefs, they weren't able to secure it. And Direwolves, to their credit, had the information, played off it, and were able to cripple them.
In saying that, locker CCTV generally a pretty decent site for defenders. So for the Chiefs, it's upstairs where they're going to need to get a lot of the work done, open area, and then CEO executive if required. So we'll see how that basically plays out. Obviously, Digital's back. It does mean a tactical timeout has been now used by the Chiefs. So they won't have one moving forward. If they end up in a situation, guys, where it's like a 3-6 match point, it's not like you can call that tactical timeout anymore. So that is something to sort of keep in mind if things do go a little bit worse here for the Chiefs. Only down one round, though, here. We head into the 8th round. It's actually going to be CEO executive for the Direwolves, skipping open area stuff.
And one of the more notable changes to the game heading into this particular season is Valkyrie. Her cameras now no longer give a video feed once placed outside. I believe the cooldown's 10 seconds, and then it's just audio only. So maybe in the past, Souffle would use the Valkyrie to throw cameras outside to monitor the rappel, for example. But at the moment, unless, again, you want to rely solely on audio cues, that's not really going to be a viable strategy. So just something to keep our eyes on. Valkyrie probably not going to be quite as powerful and quite as potent as maybe she previously was in competitive.
Just feels like a really big round, though, for the Chiefs. The fact this is CEO executive and a site generally won by attackers on bank. Not always, just generally. You lose this, suddenly it's 3-5. You have to go to open area star. Locker CCTV will be opening up again soon. It can really snowball out of reach.
Attackers have located a bomb.
You win this, 4-4. And at the very least, OT would be looking very, very likely. But they started so well here on bank, winning the first 2 rounds. Since then, though, it's a 4-1 advantage to the Direwolves in the next 5 after that. Well, that Selma obviously not going to be working out.
I'm really liking the frequency of IQ picks in this match thus far. An operator often overlooked, but now able to ping out these gadgets for teammates, making things a lot easier to spot and see and communicate. She's really come into her own now and become a lot more useful. So awesome to see that adaptation from both teams, and a great counter to Valkyrie and Echo. Even other pieces of utility, right? Like the Wamai discs, even mute jammers as well when close by. So I like this from the Chiefs, and it looks like they're trying to prepare for a push up banana stairs. They have a couple of players poised, no one really wanting to move as of yet. I think Digital is trying to scout ahead and maybe gain just that little extra bit of information, but a good counter there from ED, the smoke canister, to just halt things a little bit. But as I say that, Worthy gets the first.
Don't know if Pickett really needs to peek that wall. With a minute 10 remaining, still holding that elevated position, you can just probably wait for the Chiefs to try and come upstairs and clear that spot. And instead, he gets a little bit anxious. Does elect to peek through that opened up wall and then suddenly loses his life worth. He finds that elimination as well onto ED. Once Worthy gets going, the Chiefs are hard to stop. Ethan also catching on. That's Jackie Wu down. Souffle over towards Beepers, Harambe and Talas, and I think for the Direwolves, CEO executive, not really the best decision in the end.
2 nitros available, but it could be too little too late here for the defense. Do they even have information? That's the question. They are both below, but Digital's going for the plant. We need to see a response swiftly here from the Direwolves, but yeah, it's just a guessing game at this point. It's secured. And the Chiefs at this point basically have the round locked.
I mean, if they've got 2 nitro cells and the plant's going down, they've obviously got no information there as to that going down. No real attempt to deny it from down below, despite having that. That gets shot out of the air by Worthy. And that was probably the last chance of maybe some kind of miracle retake. Had that exploded and got that elimination 2v3 with a bit of time, may have been possible. Not to beat. Worthy should win this. Souffle now in a 1 versus 2. Has taken a little bit more damage. So far, not inflicted all that much back the other way. Digital does take a little bit. Pulls out the pistol. Worthy pulls out the stop and it gets that kill. It's 4-4.
Good work there from the Chiefs. Their progression up banana was great. The opening pick over towards elevator allowed them to really manipulate that front desk position, and some sharp shots, particularly from Worthy, the key to their success. And unfortunately, the response from Direwolves, particularly down below, was a little bit underwhelming. They had 2 nitros available, neither of which were used. But again, by that point, the round was all but over. We head over now to staff and open. First time we're seeing this side in the second half.
And defuse as many bombs as they can.
One of my more favored sites, if not probably my favorite site on this map, because it lives up to its name, open. It can play pretty open. And I think generally it's a decent site for both defense and attackers. And how it gets played, a really big portion of the map generally is going to be involved. Hallway square, main stairs, obviously site itself. The times even tellers. I mean, you're going to be using a large portion of Bank. And I think one of the biggest ones we generally see is a player maybe loitering, say, blue stairs late round and going for a swing on the players, the attackers that have got their way into square. We've seen that so many times before as well.
Must locate and defuse a bomb.
I like the Jackal here from Bounce, by the way, guys. I think for this site in particular, works out really well in trying to pin down where Direwolves are located defensively.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate again for Jackal on this particular map. I think it works really well. It aims in clearing the roam quite swiftly and means you're arguably a little bit less reliant on drones. Maybe if you want to look even deeper into that, you could use drones a bit more aggressively in prep phase, but you can always just save them and use them in situations where maybe the Jackal isn't necessarily all that viable. Quite a spread out approach here from the Chiefs. For example, you have Boydie over towards front door, some of the other members from Chiefs entering top square, and you even have pressure already over towards the CEO office. But I like this from the Chiefs. They're trying to strangle out Direwolves, force them down the main stairs, and Bouncing, the back of this initial information should push forward. Ethan dropped elsewhere. That's the IQ dealt with, but Bouncing now with the confidence off the back of that Jackal ping to maybe take a fight, but he's a little bit too slow.
Well, the beauty of Jackal there is you still get main stairs taken care of without having to force an engagement. You get it for free. Oh, that's an easy one. Yeah, and I'm not sure what Pika's doing there. When you've just lost main stairs, they should have calmed that. And Pika, unfortunately, just caught between a rock and a hard place, and Bouncing doing an amazing job in this Jackal to just be a terror against Souffle and the Direwolves.
But Worthy, he's still in the server. You cannot count him out of any fight. One of the best players locally and even in APAC. Super duper strong. Souffle under pressure, an undesirable angle, and he's being spotted out. He decides to swing blindly. That's not the play. Boydie with a free pick, and now Jackie with an ED in 2v4.
The Jackal, the absolute turn point in this particular round, and it may just give the Chiefs the lead. 2 versus 4. They've already thrown away, I think, 2 rounds, though, where they've had a somewhat similar advantage. ED, Jackie Wu, don't count them out. Obviously, it's easy to look at the 0-2 of ED, but remember, he was 7-2 at one point. Back in the first half, had an amazing first half for the Direwolves on the attack.
Impact trick as well, they're onto those Selmas, so a good little response from Direwolves in the macro game, but it might not be enough.
40 seconds as well, not much time either, and this wall does eventually get opened up anyway, so the small victories aren't going to amount for much if the Direwolves can't find frags.
Jackaroo has the hose close by, likely to be traded, but could do some damage. 20 seconds on the board, he needs to hold down the line.
Smokes can go out, courtesy of Bouncing, so Digital can get this diffuser down. Jackie Wu goes for the swing, he's got the pings as well. Should be able to win this headshot of the Bouncing, gets the second as well. Digital tries to find it and he falls. It's Jackie Wu! Jackie Wu for the Direwolves! Goes big! It may not have been a blue stair swing at square, but it was somewhat similar, guys. It happens so many times. Why is no one watching that?
It was the smallest of flanks with the biggest of outcomes. What a play there from Jackie. Absolutely huge. He had to go for something. This really should not have worked, but he made it work. Maybe the Chiefs didn't quite hear the sound cue. Probably didn't have a drone bot square. Really tough to know how he was allowed to get away with that, but nonetheless, such a strong play. Direwolves, that was a big round as well. Now they're only a single round away from at least securing something in this matchup.
2
at least
versus
securing
4.
something.
Again, that's the difference so far in this game of Bank, is the Direwolves' ability to bring back rounds where they look like they're going to lose. It's happened at least 2 or 3 times now. It has to have been the case. 5-4, now down to Locker CCTV. Match point could be on the cards if they can obviously get this round in the bag. The Chiefs blowing a massive chance to go up here on Bank. You have to wonder, where was the flank watch? How do you allow that to happen? It's happened anyway. And full credit to Jackie Wu. You still got to land those shots. It's never easy, stressful environment, and does just that. 10th round, Direwolves on the verge of match point if they can take this one.
Really injecting a bit of energy and electricity into this matchup, but now it's up to the Chiefs to try and match that. Been a struggle back and forth for both of these teams so far. Now I'll have to see what the Chiefs are made of on this basement attack. In terms of lineup, it's looking strong, but pretty expected. Once again, the Jackal in play, and that should help in speeding this up and allowing some of these entries to get an early foothold.
It's so difficult to also ascertain when the Chiefs are in a winnable position now. Another 2v4 giveaway. Look at a site like Locker CCTV, which you know is going to come down to, like, let's say the last 30 seconds. Again, it's going to be that kind of late round plant. You got a Nitrocell from Pika, obviously the smoke to Chanka, so a lot of time denial on the side of Direwolves and that elimination potential. And obviously for ED on the smoke, needing to be making sure you don't die to a nade. In this case, it's only Boydie that's got the nades again. He got the job done last time to on Locker's CCTV. And provided he doesn't die, they will be able to deny that server and push for longer this time.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Once again, that secondary hard breach proving to be very effective for Worthy on the buck. So powerful on this particular map, especially when the Hibana is banned out. Digital makes his way bot blue, and that's the wall opened up. Much like last time, though, Pika's inside of gold, feeding
Bomb located
this
by
information to the rest of his team. He can just sit there with that pulse scanner out and call out how many players are in this position and if they're in that default plant position. As you can see, that's cued Jackie Wu with the Shmika launcher on the Tachanka to send out flames. That just means that time is going to continue to tick down here for the Chiefs.
And no gas babes used yet. I mean, as I say, that ED throws out his first, 50 seconds remaining. Still a lot of utility to get through here for the Direwolves, which is what you want. Right? You've still got 2 gas babes. Shmika launcher still going out in full effect. Only 1 more now, getting a little bit low, 40 seconds. They probably could have been timing this slightly better because you can realistically get a lot of time denial. They're going to be using the last bit of utility now, 30 seconds left. It means the window of opportunity for the Chiefs is going to be oh so tiny, Gus.
He sits and waits, Jackie. Perfect positioning on those flames. He can't push forward. He can't go for the plant. ED finds the opening kill, and Direwolves are looking great in this round.
Yeah, 15 seconds left. Shmika launcher is done, so the gas babes, but now Direwolves going to get on the guns anyway. Digital going to try and stick that diffuser down, but he's running out of people to really cover for him. The Nitrocell from Pika falls. Sure, Bouncing gets a double, maybe salvages this round. Digital, he got off of it for a split second. Needs to stick it. Worthy Bouncin literally need to stand in his way. Gets pinged down. Souffle can't hit the shot. It's a 3K for Bouncin. Plant does go down. And now the Chiefs should surely win it unless Harambe gets a 1 versus 3. Worthy goes upstairs, back up into staff, and Digital's low as well. Both so low. Both need to play off of each other here.
60 HP. Harambe thinks about hitting
the
diffuser.
reposition. Have they got an angle on this? They do.
They do.
Oh, Bank is such a fascinating map at times. 5-5. It's well and truly been back and forth between these 2 teams. What a way to start APAC South for 2022. Someone's going to get that match point at the conclusion of this 11th round. And right now, guys, it's very difficult to predict who.
That round was crazy. The Chiefs, they won that by 5 seconds.
Yeah.
When the plant got denied by the Yokai drone, it was still in red time, so Digital was able to reattempt. He could have stuck it, so that's why the Echo couldn't wait until the expiration of the round. Typically, the Echo would wait for the round to expire, so that when you deny it, it automatically ends, but that wasn't the case. It just didn't quite line up. Maybe that's 1 misplaced flame or 1 slightly short smoke canister, for example, that makes all the difference there for Direwolves. This is a really, really close game at the moment. And again, trying to split them, it's impossible.
It's a game of inches. Mistakes are going to be made, as always. It's just natural. But it seems like when you have such a close game between these 2 teams, it's about who maybe makes less mistakes at the end of the day, whether you like it or not. And, you know, you think back to that open area stuff round, the 9th round, and the Chiefs arguably should have won that round. maybe should the Direwolves have won the 10th round? Maybe you could say that. I think the Chiefs played it very well. They were very patient. They had a game plan and they stuck to it. They didn't panic despite being in red time, and then despite the Yokai, there was no panicking. Really well played. And I think right now you just got to sit back and appreciate that these two teams clearly riding that 2021 wave into 2022, both playing really well. Very entertaining siege as well. 5-5 as we head to CEO Executive, and I'm imagining with this site in particular, we're going to have another banging round.
I would concur with that statement. Now, we have seen this particular objective CEO exec played 3 times so far. The attacking win rate slightly edging out 2-3, or 2 of the 3 rounds rather. So probably expected. Again, I don't think it's a particular.
Well, just quickly, guys, we posed this question in the first half. The no repeat. Again, we're seeing it no repeat. In fact, we haven't seen a site get repeated once.
Yeah. Maybe these teams just respect one another and believe that they're really good at adapting. Again, attack with a repick, arguably repeating sites is probably even less favorable than it was previously. And when rounds are so close like the last one, I don't think Direwolves would be sitting back being like, we can make this huge change and we're going to 100% win the round. They probably don't have that sort of confidence to be able to do that. So instead, switch things up, try something different. Where the over towards staff needs to be a little bit careful. There's a defender in archives, one in open as well, and he's kind of stuck in the middle.
That's Soufflo who finds the opening pick onto Bounce, and that is massive. Jackal off the board, but then one back from Worthy, but the trade from Harambe, that's fine. And so far, Direwolves well and truly happy with how things have started in this 11th round. The Jackal's gone, and arguably two of the best fraggers for the Chiefs off the board.
Yeah, that's just really, really sharp defending there. Direwolves working off one another, Harambe backing up his teammate, and now they can reap the benefits of that. They have a 4-3 advantage. The Chiefs are left scattered. And now with only a minute 40 left, they need to establish some sort of control on the map. Now, top square is the most likely result here for the Chiefs, as they have digital available with Summers in hand, so you can open up that hard breach into CEO. But time continues to tick down, and as it ticks down, the chances of them winning the round continues to slip away.
Body on the rappel, obviously wanting to clear out as many electronics as possible, but only a minute 20 seconds remaining. Got to get to work, got to get moving, got to try and get rid of those mute chambers as well so Digital can open up this wall. You're down a player now as well. At the very least, you still have your hard breach available, but no soft breach through Worthy, and your fraggers off the board as well. Still 3 gas babes available in hand for ED. Can very much deny any look of a rappel entry too, playing this position. So this is looking to be really good for the Direwolves.
Now it's all just about holding on, playing off one another, and ensuring you do not leak picks, do not give away free 1v1 engagements, because the Chiefs are bloody sharp. They will win those out. Boydie especially, one of the new additions to the roster historically, has been a very sharp shooter. So it's important over the next 30 seconds, Direwolves just play in to the advantage. Don't freak out too much. And again, don't give away anything for free.
Square well and truly in the control of the Chiefs as they look to just find some vantage points, try and find an angle onto site. 20 seconds left, don't have a lot of time. Need to get Digital in there and get that plant down. Has a little bit of help though. The reinforcements have arrived through Ethan. What an angle from Harambe. That may just work. It may just not. Ethan just gets into Janitor, finds that elimination, continues to watch and wait as the bodyguard for Digital. Gets that plant down out of the hallway. The big 1v1. Jackie Wu wins it. ED follows up by taking out Boydie, and Digital cannot withstand the onslaught of the Direwolves. 6-5, match point. No, Jackie Wu.
Oh. It's one of the few times he's died in this game so far, but really well done there by Direwolves. They played patiently. Unfortunately for Harambe, just caught out Ethan getting a pick, but they just recollected themselves. They recomposed. They didn't force anything too much. Jackie Wu probably entered a little bit of a 50-50 engagement, but he's been playing well and was able to come out on top. Then it snowballed. They had the momentum on the back end of that round, and now they have match point again. When we consider the scoring system, getting to 6 points first, especially in such a tight league, really, really important.
Yep. Cannot agree more. Of course, 1 point minimum has been achieved for the Direwolves. You can get all 3 if they win here. Otherwise, an OT win is 2 points. And obviously, a T loss is 1 point. So, obviously, for the Chiefs now, they can't get all 3 points. That's no longer a possibility. That's always the case in this format. getting to that 6-point first, you not only secure yourself 1 point, Guz, but you also still have that chance at 3. It's the best place to be.
Sure is, and some would argue that basement is also one of the better places to be. Again, that Tachenka and Smoke combo, so potent. Last time for Direwolves, it almost worked, but they were about 5 seconds short. Even with the Echo as well in play, they weren't able to deny that plant in time, and the Chiefs, who was so patient, so patient, did not force anything, just waited for everything to simmer, and then they capitalized on their opportunity to close out that round. I'm assuming they'll be wanting to do something similar here in what could well be the final round of this first match.
Tell you what, it has been a very exciting match between these two teams to kickstart APAC South this year. I think an OT probably deserving. I think in some ways, if the Chiefs lose this 7-5, they'd probably feel a little bit hard done by. Not the greatest way to start their split, but also there's so many good positives to take from this. I think if you were to go back and ask the boys on the desk at the start, the scoreline, don't even know if they would say 7-5, maybe like a 7-4 may have been on their mind. And yet the Chiefs and the Direwolves have basically been evenly matched right now.
Worthy hasn't really been matched by too many others, though, in the lobby so far. It felt like he's been quite impactful, and the scoreline reflects that. The only one that probably really has for Direwolves has been Jackie Wu, again, fulfilling that Tachenka role. Batson, though, quick control. Sprays down main stairs, but doesn't really find all that much. But he does know that it's clear, and that's really important. Only a minute into the round, and Chiefs have control up above. That gives them the freedom now to set up for this attack, the freedom to really drain the utility from the defense, force out those smoke canisters, force out the Shamika launcher charges nice and early to give them even more time than last for an attempt.
So far, we've seen Pika play this vault position twice. One time, the Nitrocell was successful. The other time, it wasn't. They won the time it was successful, and they lost the time it wasn't successful. So, such an important position to be playing, not only in finding information, but that Nitrocell is literally the only Nitrocell they have. So besides the standard Gas Babe and Shamika launcher utility, that is their way to also find a pick on the planter late round to really throw a spanner in the works for the attacking team.
Very much a sense of deja vu as we have the pulse inside of Gold calling out this information, and it's really a waiting game for both teams, right? Oh, or maybe it's not. Digital's going for the plan.
Yeah, I think they were able to just force back Jackie Wu for that brief moment and deny him from being able to get that Shamika launcher up and operating. 40 seconds left. 1 ED left. Oh, Jackie Wu's down.
No.
I said 1 ED left, by the way. 1 Gas Babe left. There is still 1 ED left, though, as well. But yeah, Jackie Wu being down. No more Shamika launcher for the time being. Gas Babe goes out earlier from ED, 30-second mark. So there will be time for the Chiefs. Digital has found a way in, though. He is sticking this diffuser. Adrenal Surge activated by Boydie, and it's Bouncin who finds the opening kill.
Digital falls off. I think the Flames have compromised his position as Jackie Wu was picked back up. Digital attempts again, but he falls off once more. Falls off.
Yokai. It's going to deny him as well, and he's got no idea, looking away from it, and then pushing in his Pika anyway. This round has fallen away from the Chiefs. The map and the game has fallen away because Jackie Wu has been inspirational. This could very well be the year of the Wolf. The Direwolves start off APAC South with a win against the Chiefs.
What a way to open up the account for the Direwolves, and they are elated at that result. They have just taken down one of the best teams in APAC South at the end of 2021.
Whoop,
they are thrilled. Why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be excited about that? What a match and what a game, particularly from Jackie Wu. Wow, he was incredible. And don't look at his death stats, right? 2 of those they're friendly fire, so they don't count.
Yeah, well, good to see Harambe up and about, isn't it? Obviously, just joining the roster not that long ago. Ecstatic, excited with that victory. 7-5, all 3 points secured for the Direwolves. A team that I think many expect to see rise this year, Guz, and what a perfect way to get that year off.
Wow, yeah, really putting a big statement on the board, but you have to be very measured here. I'm the measured
here we
person
go.
on the desk, right? I've got to mention it. Consistency, right? It was the thing that plagued them last year. Yes, they played exciting Siege, but they weren't able to replicate that every single week. Yes, it's tough in a best of one, but the best teams were able to just do it enough to edge out and secure a playoff position. So that's what we're looking at here for Direwolves. A great start against an opponent that played very well. I was honestly a little bit surprised at how well the Chiefs did play, so credits to them. But unfortunately, they don't really get anything out of this matchup, at least towards the scoreboard. They'll have to pick themselves back up for next week.
I definitely think they're going to rue some of the chances they let. A couple of 2v2s, a couple of moments where if they just had been a little bit cleaner, you probably pinch a few rounds. I think this is actually the kind of game you look back, you look at the VOD, and you think actually the Chiefs could have won this 7-5. That's a very realistic scenario that could have played out. So I think, honestly, big credit to both of the teams to get off to a great start for this year. The Chiefs by no means are down and out because they lost the first game, and the Direwolves, of course, we temper our expectations a little bit, guys. They're not just to the moon just yet, but a great start. Let's throw it back to the boys on the desk, though, where they can break it all down.
You never know. It might not be now, but it might be soon enough. That was an incredible performance from, I want to say ED and Co, but honestly, Direwolves have really come out of the gate swinging. Dev, what a performance to kickstart their 2022 season.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering we didn't see Direwolves get the better of Chiefs in the last 2 times they played, I haven't looked back further than that, but I think it's safe to say overall Chiefs have consistently had Direwolves' number up until now. And when we saw the start of that match, it looked like, okay, maybe we got a little bit too excited for Direwolves. Maybe Chiefs look to be retaining that previous form. It looks like maybe their roster shuffle has worked out for them. But quickly the situation flipped, and there were some highlight moments for Direwolves.
There was so many, Raven. There was a couple of big plays when you look back. I think all of us can think to the Jackie Wu 3K when things were looking down and out. I mean, are we looking at this and kind of asking the questions of the Chiefs, or are we just going to brush this one off?
Oh, look, I think it's always in stage 1 the story of you can kind of brush off a little bit. And to be honest, Chiefs did play quite well. I tend to agree with Guz. I feel like they actually came out of the gate swinging a little bit harder than I was expecting. That being said, to put it in more perspective, we've phrased this as this is Chiefs' best map. Really great win-loss coming out of last year into this year. And Dials did a really good job standing up to that challenge. So I think it's a mixed bag here, right? There's a little bit to take away for the Chiefs. They looked decent, and it's going to take them some time to probably get back to that strong form. But great to see Direwolves come out with some consistency and have a really strong performance as well.
Couple of shaky rounds, Dev, down in the basement, I think. There were a couple of rounds where we were in the green room scratching our heads, a couple of closer rounds than there should have been. Do you think that's just the first Playday jitters?
Honestly, I think that is because of the way that Direwolves decided to interpret their basement defenses. They love plant denial. I mean, you're talking Echo, Smoke, and Tachanka, plus you've even got a Pulse for some C4 and for the info that Pulse can give you as well. I mean, that is a stacked plant denial lineup. They even brought Maestro on top of everything in the final round. We saw that come to fruition here. Chiefs, they did have one nice basement execute, albeit chaotic one. In the final round, we saw truly what Dials were capable of. They had util upon util stacked. So many layers of the onion that Chiefs had to peel away. And in the midst of all that chaos, Dials decided, look, let's just peek them and see what happens. Worked out perfectly.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, Dev. There's another line that tends to be a key favorite around here. But Raven, there's one thing that is for sure. The smiles, the elation on the Direwolves team. I think that this kind of really does set us in good tread for the next couple of play days, at the very least.
Yeah, look, certainly some good momentum for them, and they have always been a fairly positive, bubbly team. I mean, if everybody remembers back to all the interviews with ED, he's a very upbeat guy, and he always talks about that's been their team's strength, is they love to have a good time, they love to have fun when they play. It was just always about them finding their 5-man roster that really clicks and really rounds it out well for them. So look, if bringing Harambe in brings that to Direwolves' shores for this stage, I think they can certainly make a good challenge for top 4 and see how they go in APAC.